Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Of course, we are joined from the economic capital of Nigeria, Lagos. My name is Henry Igwebike, and I love us to start with our newspapers today. Interestingly, we'll be starting with the Daily Trust newspaper. But just before we get to that, we would love you to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can always find us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. I am honored to have joining me via Zoom, Barrister Irogene Greatness, Barrister Law Public Affairs Analyst, to see through all that we have from our newspapers and straight on to our main conversation for today. Good morning, Mr. Greatness.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you.
My name is His Greatness. His Greatness. They are co-joined.
Oh,
His
okay.
Greatness.
His Greatness. Okay, beautiful. His Greatness. All right, beautiful. So thank you so very much, Barrister, for the time. So I would love us to start off with the Daily Trust newspaper today. We have the big story: Bandits abduct 55 in Zamfara. And on the top strip, we equally have mafias out to kill my refinery, and that's coming from Dangote. We equally have other interesting stories from the Daily Trust newspaper. Presidency Atiku trade words over hunger and poverty, and FCT doctors strike, services grounded in hospitals. Barrister, I love us to start with mafia out to kill my refinery. That's coming from Dangote. Do you believe this Nigerians should take this seriously?
Yes, I believe they should take it extremely seriously, because there has been a back and forth between Dangote refinery and the NNPC. You know, the NNPC at a point said they will supervise the Dangote refinery. They will have staff on ground to supervise the operation. At another time, NNPC said that they will be the off-taker of the PMS coming from Dangote refinery. At another time, Dangote said that the NNPC was a bottleneck as it were to this month's operation, and this is extremely worrisome, because especially for the upstream aspects of the petroleum industry, because what we want to see is that Dangote has not brought competitiveness into the refinery business. It's no more business as usual. So what we expect is to ensure that Warri Refinery, Kaduna Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery is working in maximum capacity so that they can be competitive to Dangote. But from all the facts available now, NNPC is still embarking on gross importation of petroleum products. And because they see that producing fuel in Nigeria is cheaper than imported products, that is why they are putting some kind of bottlenecks, as it were, to the operations of Dangote, because Dangote has the competitive edge over NNPC, because it's producing its product refinery. The demurrage and other cost of bringing fuel from overseas has been removed. Not to talk of local capacity and the fact that local products are cheaper. The dollar factor will be much reduced. And that is why, to us, and I'm not alone in this view, many Nigerians, because of the competitiveness or monopoly, as it were, by the Dangote refinery, NNPC is now standing as a hurdle to the smooth operation of Dangote refinery. So when he said that there are mafias in this industry, I 100% agree with Dangote, because these are the people who have... Yes.
So when you talk about the NNPC, you know we cannot differentiate it from the federal government. So does that mean that the federal government is not interested in allowing Dangote to work? At the same time, Barrister, let's not forget, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the substantive Minister of Petroleum Resources. So are we saying literally that the President is complicit with the NNPC to ensuring that Dangote does not work?
Well, to an extent, yes, because the buck stops at the president's table. So he ought to ensure that everything is done to ensure that Dangote refinery thrives, so that other private refineries can also come upstream and thrive as well. But that saying, to that extent, I will say that. But again, you know, the NNPC is autonomous, or ought to be autonomous, yes. And they have been privatized, at least not only in paper, but to a large extent of their operation. So you cannot, the president, even though he is the head or he is the Minister of Petroleum Resources, what he is supposed to do is to give general directives. He cannot go and sit in the NNPC office and direct their day-to-day operation. No, he cannot. Just like a minister cannot do that in an agency under his watch or supervision. He can only give general directives that they should ensure best practices, best global practices. They should shun corruption. They should ensure that their operations are optimal. He can just give those directives, but the implementing those directives falls squarely on the management and staff of NNPCL. And so, but where we can fault federal government and the presidency is where Dangote and the likes are complaining that NNPC are engaging in sharp practices to the extent that it is affecting their own operation. Then we should see the presidency immediately taking action to stem that tide by, first of all, setting up a high-powered investigating commission or committee to investigate whether these allegations are true or not. So, but we have not seen that yet. We have not seen that, and that is where you can now fault the presidency, that they are laid back in performing their regulatory functions over the entire upstream petroleum industry.
Very true. Yes, very true, Barrister. It is becoming a little bit more complicated. Remember when all of this started, Dangote did say that some Nigerian bigwigs have blending plants in different parts of the world. And of course, Owandu, which is a little bit affiliated to the president, is a part of those companies that it was alleged had a blending plant somewhere in Malta. And all of this is just adding up together. I just truly do hope that Nigerians would not be asked to pay the brunt for all of these things. But let's get to another story. Presidency, Atiku trade words over hunger and poverty. Yes, you wanted to say something, Barrister?
No, before we even leave that aside, we Nigerians, because we Nigerians, we appear to be extremely docile. We should be asking the hard questions. You know, Obasanjo said, they said the Port Harcourt and Warri refinery has come upstream. They said that last year or thereabout. And Obasanjo came and said that from insider information that those refineries are not functional. And agents of the government abused Obasanjo and called him father of corruption. But today now Obasanjo has been justified. So we need to even ask, why is the refinery that they claimed a year ago or thereabout to be fully functional now comatose? What is really the problem? Why is it that the Petroleum Industry Act that we have all celebrated, why has it not positively and effectively affected the functionality of Warri Refinery, Port Harcourt Refinery, and Kaduna Refinery? So those are the inquiries that must be made, and we must get answers. Until answers are made, I'm sure that Dangote will continue to be a prey. It will continue to be a prey, a delicate prey, endangered species in this upstream petroleum industries, because he will be seen as a threat to the importation mafia that is surrounding the entire upstream petroleum industry chain.
Very true. Very, very true, Barrister. And just to let us know that about $2.5 billion was invested in Port Harcourt and Warri refinery. Unfortunately, that money has gone, and we can't even account for it because the refinery is not working at optimal. And at the same time, Mele Kyari is still under investigation with the EFCC. He is. We've heard that he has said some things. We do hope that it would not involve lots of other people who might be the mafias. Of course, becoming part of the problem that we have. But I want us to talk on this particular matter. Presidency article trade words over hunger and poverty. Why is the president in denial, Barrister, that there's hunger in the land?
Because the presidency for now is fixated at 2027 and admitting the true state of the economy in terms of high rate of unemployment, high rate of poverty, high inflation rate, reduced direct investment portfolio in the country will negatively impact on his chances of winning a re-election come 2027. And it shows clearly that his scorecard is far below average. So that it is a political gimmick as far as I'm concerned. But how long will he continue to run away from the reality which we are all living witnesses? We are all living witnesses that there's high rate of poverty. We are all living witnesses that from the Buhari till now, multi-dimensional poverty has indeed increased, not even marginally, grossly. So we see it every now and then, every corner we bend. So if it continue to live in this space of alternate narrative about the Nigeria economy and the true state of living of Nigerians, I think that it will even plunge its chances of winning a re-election even further down below. Except what people are speculating that in 2027 we should not expect a free and fair election. You know, people are already saying that it is the retired Court of Appeal judge that will replace and the current Yakubu, the current INEC chairman.
INEC chairman, yeah.
Come November, so that he can do a yeoman's job. So, but we hope that will not be the case. But if the president is really interested in winning re-election through a free and fair process, the earlier the presidency praises to the realization of the true reality that there's high rates of poverty in the land. There's high, despite rebasing the economy, the inflation rate is still unacceptable. Even the current exchange rate, whether you call it 1,500, 1,600 to the dollar, is also not acceptable. Also, too, the current squandermania in government by way of the expenditure of government, recurrent expenditure, is also not acceptable. Also, the high rates of borrowing. We hear that there are also some billions of dollars that are in the works to be borrowed again. Is also not acceptable. So, except the government sets up a crack team that can deal with these issues decisively, that can think outside the box, think outside the traditional methods of approaching economic issues to pragmatic and strategic measures that can bring succor to the ordinary Nigerian, cushion their hardship, cushion their food hardship, cushion their transportation hardship, cushion their high cost of living hardship, and brings in a short-term succor, not long-term, short-term, not even medium-term, short-term immediate succor to Nigerians. Then I'm afraid that the presidency can as well forget about his re-election ambition of 2027.
All right, let's yes. Of course, it's becoming a little bit funny that the president wants a re-election, knowing the Nigerians have said he had not performed, even if his media cronies and people around him are busy telling him how that he's awesomely doing well, but Nigerians know too well that he is actually not doing well. But let's move to the Punch newspaper, Barrister, and we have the talking point here. Tinubu cuts short vacation, returns to Nigeria. Equally, Fubara foreign trips, a bar set for handover. Barrister, speak to me. You were at the NBA National Conference, which, because of the state of emergency declared on Fubara, it was shifted from Rivers State, Port Harcourt, to Enugu. And Fubara is about to come back yet again. What's your say on this particular matter? Do we expect something new from Fubara, or do we see a Fubara who is 100% a puppet of Nyesom Wike and President Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Personally, what I will expect Fubara to do once he comes back is to stand for the masses. Because whatever agreement he has entered with anybody behind the scene is not binding on him. It's not binding on him. He has a future to reckon with. Whether he will be impeached in the remaining part of his first term, or whether he will be able to go for a second term, that should not even be his priority. His priority will be during his time in office. What will he be known for? By what measure will he be judged, and what will be his legacy? Will it be that of cowardice? Will it be that of an Ijaw man? We always know Ijaw to be bold, courageous, fearless, sacrificial, even sacrificial lamb. Will he change that name, that legacy of the Ijaw man? But that somebody, a governor, a chief executive, capitulated by this wayside interest. So he will have to prove his mettle. He will have to show that he is for the people, and it is the interest of the people supersedes any private engagement or any private deal or private endeavor. He must prove that. What I expect from him once he assumes office is to reverse all the appointments that have been made during the emergency rule by bringing back his own people that were suspended. That's the first signal I want to hear to show that he's actually going to stand by the people.
But don't you think that will re-emerge? Barrister, don't you think that will re-emerge the problem that led to the state of emergency yet again?
Well, justice is not quietness in the grave site. That's the true meaning of justice is law and order, things being done right. Not that there's silence, there's quietness. That's not justice. But that the proper things must be done, no matter whose ox is God. You know what we say is that let the heavens fall, but let justice be done. So the fact that there's quietness now does not mean that there's justice. Let's not work on that. Those kind of let there be no misgiving. There's no justice now. There's no peace now. Peace cannot be there. People are dissatisfied. People are offended. People feel cheated. People feel oppressed. People feel deprived. People feel that their location is being siphoned to quarters outside the interest of Rivers State. People feel that the RISEC board membership has been hijacked by a group of people that may not be more than 5 or 10. That cannot be peace or quietness. So there's no peace. So the real peace is for him to ensure that the people have their way. He stands for the people. He does the right people. Even if the heavens will come, even they declared state of emergency when nobody was, no gunshot was fired, nobody was fighting any person. It was just because of a way to give a particular side in the divide advantage. That was all that was the real reason behind the state of emergency, which has been proven. And that's why I expected in the NBA conference, which we had, for in our communique, we ought to have made a strong proclamation that, number one, in our community, our NBA conference, that the state of emergency was wrong, was unconstitutional. We did not do that. We ought to also have made another proclamation in our community that the forthcoming local government election, which took place 2 days after the end of our conference, is null and void, because you cannot conduct election during emergency rule. The NBA did not stand up enough to make that declaration. And even me, as a participant, I raised up my hand to bring it to the notice of the AGM, but I was not recognized to do. And also, too, the NBA we also made another mistake during this conference, because in our community, we also ought to collectively have called on this CJN and the Supreme Court that the matter that has been taken to the Supreme Court by the PDP governors should now be immediately heard, pronto, and judgment delivered accordingly before 18th day of September 2025.
But won't it be an academic exercise, barrister? Even if it is done, won't it be an academic exercise? Because 6 months has come and gone, and it doesn't make any sense any longer.
No, you know, one thing about the law does not. The law is always forward-looking. So the law also the courts should determine issues so that there will not be a reoccurrence in future. So the law does not only deal with things that has passed. The law also deal with things that are present, and the courts also deal with issues so that this kind of anarchy, this kind of lawlessness will not repeat itself in future. So even though the matter is still before the Supreme Court, I'm still urging the Supreme Court to hear that matter, to make a clear proclamation that this kind of behavior, this kind of conduct is unconstitutional, and courts of law will not tolerate it. So I expect to hear that kind of signature judgment coming down and hard on the federal government coming hard on the federal government by the Supreme Court. And if we are awarding damages against the federal government for declaring state of emergency, they can award damages of 20 billion naira in favor of River State for declaring state of emergency when they ought not to declare state of emergency in the manner in which the federal government did. So,
but Barrister, knowing that since the Supreme Court had failed to do that, and it is not looking like the Supreme Court would do that, do you believe that the Supreme Court has been hijacked by the executive?
Well, this one, if I believe that, well, it is my personal opinion, but that is what majority of Nigerians believe. We cannot run away from it, and I'm sure the present CGN in a number of occasions has alluded to the fact that majority of Nigerians have lost interest and have lost confidence in the capacity of Nigerian court to administer justice without fear or favor. And if you can go out of your studio now and take a census of 20 Nigerians, if hardly will you see 2 Nigerians who will tell you that the way the Nigerian courts are presently justice in Nigerian courts to do justice without fear or favor. They believe that Nigerian courts, they normally and always kowtow to rich Nigerians, to politicians, to public office holders. That is what they believe, and of course the Sultan said that during our inaugural his address in our NBA meeting that justice in Nigeria is now a purchasable commodity. And I felt that is a very strong, in a way, warning and admonition and advice coming from the Sultanate and the courts. Even hearing that alone would have the next week fixed this River State matter in the Supreme Court for hearing. So it is not something we can run away from. It is another reality that is staring us in the face and may consume this nation if we do not carry out extraordinary radical steps to stem this tide. I know a lot of my colleagues we want to live in denial. We say, no, it's not that bad. No, there are only few bad eggs. Oh, I'm trying to paint a very nice picture. But that is not the reality that is perceived and seen by Nigerians who are the litigants in court. And in our principles of law, it is the true opinion of a court is the thinking, is the mindset of that bystander who is not a lawyer. His opinion of the court is what matters, not the opinion of the judge, not the opinion of the CJN, not the opinion of the Supreme Court, not the opinion of SANs, not the opinion of legal luminaries and legal practitioners. It is the opinion of ordinary Nigerians about our judiciary that counts, that stands out, that is the yardstick for measuring whether our judiciary is independent or our judiciary has been sidetracked and taken over. And so this one is now an opportunity for the judiciary to, in a way, now bring about an alternate opinion that even though majority of Nigeria think this about the judiciary is redeemable, one, and the judiciary is able to act different from the very difficult verdict that the Nigerian people have delivered on it. So it's a wonderful opportunity, and I just hope and pray earnestly that the judiciary will take opportunity of this golden opportunity to redeem itself and once again begin the process of redeeming the trust of the Nigerian people have placed on it. That's my take on that.
Very well said, Barrister. A little wonder Nigerians would say all eyes on the judiciary, because just like you did say, it is the opinion of those bystanders that actually tells the picture, paints the picture. That's truly what it is. In 60 seconds, if you may, Barrister, for the want of time, food price crash. Farmers fall to federal government's order as agro import hits 2.2 trillion naira. Barrister, does it look like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu wasn't actually prepared before running for the biggest seat in Nigeria, which is the presidency? Because in the last 3 years or 2 years plus, all he has been doing is knee-jerk approach to every policy. Right now, rather than ensure that farmers go to farm, ensure that security is taken care of in different food baskets of the federation, he is rather fixated on crashing food prices through import. Does it look like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu truly understands the rule of engagement with the position as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria?
Well, if you remember, during the presidential campaigns, even our AGM of NBA, Mr. Peter Obi was there. Mr. Atiku Abubakar came to debate, but Mr. President was not there in person. And even in all the different debates they had, Mr. President did not show up, and his excuse was that they want to use him, media wanted to use him to sell their news, and he was not going to fall to that. So he was unable to actually tell the Nigerian people, engage with the Nigerian owners and tell them the plans that he had for Nigeria, whether economic wise, whether youth engagement, food production, whether in terms of exchange rates, whether fuel subsidy. He did not come and engage with them one-on-one to sell his plan, to even first of all to show that he appreciated where the Nigerian economy was presently at that time, and how he will carry out a phased strategy in lifting the average Nigerian from a multidimensional poverty to at least to a average lifestyle. He never did. So from the word go, he never showed clear understanding of what he would face if elected president. And of course, the way the fuel subsidy was removed. Even if fuel subsidy was going to be removed, it was not going to be on his address and say fuel subsidy is gone. He didn't show preparedness. He ought to have, first of all, having become president, set up a task force or a task team to look at it and to at least to lay down strategies on how to remove the fuel subsidy in such a way and manner that will cushion the pains of Nigerians to the barest minimum and will not affect other ancillary aspects of the Nigerian economy, such as food prices, such as transportation, such as cost of housing, and other aspects, such as medical facilities, medical services. So he also, that's what he would have done before. Then they will now make these recommendations, which he will now follow through in removing the fuel subsidy. So it shows unpreparedness. It shows clear unpreparedness. And that's why when there's no preparedness, what do? You act in a state of emergency. You act urgently, you act quickly, you act without, you just, like you said, knee-jerk approach. You just respond to the problem in a reactive manner instead of being proactive. That's the essence of planning. It is said good preparation prevents poor performance, but bad preparation will attract bad results and outcomes. And that's you cannot. These principles and philosophy have been time tested and they are true. So you cannot roll it away. Just like now, what is the long-term and sustainable solution in ensuring low food prices? Even without thinking, we know them. Number one, security. Ensure that the farmers, plateau, middle belt, food belt of the nation have access to their farms and they can farm effectively. Sufficiently make fertilizer and other subsidy and grants available to farmers. The higher, simple economics, the higher production, the lower the price. Simple. What has he done now? How much grants has he made available to farmers, both in the north, in the south, and the rest, so that with that they will increase food yield, which will result in reduced food prices. What has been done? At least if I want to declare emergency in food production, we will be expecting that he must make at least 3 to 5 trillion naira annually available to farmers to crash food prices. So because it will not enhance, increase food production, and again too, of course, that will not lead to increased employment opportunities. And of course, value will be added to the production, and of course, it will lead to increased establishment of industries. You see the chain reaction, see the spiral reaction leads to this and that. But when you're not encouraging importation. Just yesterday, before you invited me, I heard that we are now importing yam from a West African country. I don't know how true it is, but I found it impossible to believe. So what we are now doing now, we are now exporting jobs to African countries, exporting jobs, because before it used to be toothpick. We are importing toothpick, we are importing these juice and the rest, but now we are now importing yam, which we can our farmers can produce in abundance in the middle belt there,
exactly.
in abundance. If we are ready to do the right thing, So this one shows unpreparedness. If you want to get the result, you must do the work. So I call on the federal government to be on their desk and fold their sleeve and do the hard work. All this short-term game will not take Nigeria anywhere. And it will serve as a very, very, very unhealthy legacy for the Tinubu administration. So the things to do to enhance food production is there. It's not rocket science. It's indeed simplistic. So do it and get the proper result. All these short-term solutions, quick fixes, is what has consistently and continually and perpetually brought Nigeria to its knees. And so it must cease. It needs to cease. Let's do the right thing so that.
Very true, Barrister. Let's do the right thing so, of course, we can get the value deliverable that is needed within that. And a couple of days back, the Daily Trust newspaper reported that 69 days after the launch of 2,000 tractors in Abuja by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, those tractors are yet to get to the farmers. So you can see how serious-minded or lack of it we are in Nigeria. These are tractors that have been bought with hard-earned money. Rather than get it to the farmers, it is still there with the federal government. Well, let's just see how this goes, though, and we hope that things would get better. Just to let you know, folks, that Barrister will still be here to take us on our main conversation. That is when we return. Bandits abduct 40 worshippers in Zamfara as peace deal collapses. This is still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
My people, the elections are around the corner. Before you know it, it will be 2027. But before then, for you to partake in the election, you must have your voter's card. And for you to have your voter's card, you must register. INEC has rolled out the drums. We call this program Continuous Voters Registration. And it is for you to register. This is to do that if you want to vote. And it's important that you take part in the process of voting. Just go there, give them your name and your address. That's all. And of course, they will capture you, take your picture, and that's all. You are done. Within 5 minutes, you are done. And after that, when the time comes, they call it claims and objection time. That's when you look at it. They will paste all the results or the names of those that have registered all over the places. You will go to the place you register, check your name that is well spelled and the information you've given them correct, And that's all. After some time again, they will tell you that your voter's card is ready. You go and pick it. That is all. Be a good Nigerian citizen. Partake in the process, because it's a duty imposed on you by Section 23 of the 1999 Constitution as a good citizen. And you will be better off by voting, because you have your mind that, yes, you voted right. I'm Wale Ogunade, constitutional lawyer, human rights activist, and President, Voters Awareness Initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for joining us. This is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's head straight to our main conversation for today. Armed bandits attacked a mosque in Gidan Turbe village, Tsafe local government area of Zamfara State, abducting about 40 worshippers during early morning prayers on Monday. Hours earlier, another group of kidnapped at least 12 people in Godai village in Bukkuyum local government area of the same state. Community sources said the victims were taken into nearby forests, raising fears that recent peace agreements between Katsina and Zamfara communities and bandits have collapsed. Observers, of course, noted that the absence of a central command among armed group makes such peace deals fragile as attacks persist across Zamfara, Sokoto, Kebbi, and Kaduna states. Meanwhile, troops of the Operation Fasan Yamma conducted several operations across the northwest, repelling attacks in Katsina and Kebbi while recovering weapons and equipment. Security forces also confirmed ongoing efforts to rescue the Zamfara abductees, though casualties were recorded, including the death of a Nigerian security and civil defense corps cooperative, and injuries to both soldiers and civilians alike. Despite these interventions, the abduction highlights the worsening insecurity in the region and the limitations of the dialogue in halting bandit violence. I still have with me Barrister, His Greatness. Thank you so very much, Barrister, for being here. I truly do appreciate you.
Thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you. All right, so Barrister, let's talk about kidnapping, banditry, and so many other criminal things happening in Nigeria. Of course, Zamfara is what it is, but let's have a blanket issue around the country, because what you see in Zamfara and other northeastern part of Nigeria equally is present in the south, in the southeast, and even some parts of the southwest of Nigeria. Barrister, do you think it makes any sense really for the government that is there to ensure that peace is obtainable in different society is desiring to dialogue with bandits? Does it make any sense?
Well, yeah, it's a hydra-headed threat. So usually a threat that is hydra-headed, you must have multiple options in dealing with it. Of course, dialogue, stick and carrot approach. You must ensure it. Of course, it cannot not only be arms, but our real concern is that, are we sure that we are investing enough in our law enforcement agents to be able to checkmate this criminal gang that has virtually invaded the entire nation and are holding the entire nation hostage? They are holding the entire nation hostage, and it is such a shameful situation that in 10 years now running up from Muhammadu Buhari's administration to now Tinubu regime, no meaningful milestone has been attained in checking what I will refer to as the savage and barbaric targeting of Nigerians by bandits, headsmen, Boko Haram, ISWA, and their allies. No significant, even though from the Buhari, one of the main reasons why Nigeria voted for Buhari's regime is that because since he's a retired army general, he will be able to effectively checkmate the rising spread of insecurity in the north. Then it has not spread down. But unfortunately, even in the revered Muhammadu Buhari's regime, these security threats now developed Hydra-headed dynamics. They now moved from Boko Haram to killer headsmen to banditry, and even under 2 years after Buhari, under Tinubu, the threat continues unabated. So we will ask the army, from the reports they have been providing, they say they don't have sufficient sophisticated equipment to deal with this scourge. No sufficient drone, no sufficient intelligence, no sufficient manpower, no sufficient motivation for the troops on ground. At certain times, I think a senator was saying the other day that an average soldier gets 100,000 a month. I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, that is grossly scandalous to us as a nation. So what is the motivation for them to risk their life to defend our internal security and to defend lives and property within the Nigerian state? So these are the different issues. Then again, too, of course, we cannot completely rule out bad governance from all this, because it is always the root cause. Bad governance always leads to poverty, always leads to deprivation, always leads to injustice, which will now serve as a breeding ground for potential criminal elements. So we must deal with that as well. So at the heart of the well-being of a secured nation is the issue of good governance, proper, appropriate allocation of scarce and available resources, so that it will be effective and it will be effectual for the good of all. Then again, too, I think that from what we have seen now, it shows that criminals do not have any tribe, criminals do not have any religion. You know, in those days, I will call it, they used to say that those who, bandits will not enter a mosque or do, or we can see now that just on Monday, which is yesterday, they entered a mosque. And before, the coloration is that these bandits, they were Muslims. They were of Islam faith, but they entered the mosque, meaning that these bandits, they do not have a tribe and they do not have any religion. They are savages. They are barbarians. They do not believe in any logic, anything that is principled or decent. So knowing this, I expect the government and the security forces to deal with them as such, ruthlessly, to get down to it. These are not people who you can really reason with. So even in the dialogue, we must know that it will only produce results for those who will wish to repent. But majority have their minds crossed that this is the path they will take forever. And that's why they have complete disdain for religion and as well as places of worship. And so I'm saying it again that this should ginger the government to provide whatever logistics and incentives is required for our security operatives to get the job done. But I must say this, dealing with this is not something that is impossible. If the political will is available and the right measures are applied, it will surely be a thing of the past. Because ultimately, good prevails over evil.
Very well, Barrister. Good reveals over evil. But lots of those in charge have said they might use kinetic and non-kinetic measures to ensure that that problem is solved. But there's this popular quote, I do not know if it's substantiated, by General Sani Abacha late, who said that if terrorism or insurgency continues over 24 hours, then the government of the day knows something about it. Barrister, you would remember a couple of years back, especially during late Buhari's tenure in office, the UAE published about 200 names of Nigerian terrorist sponsors. Till today, it's close to 10 years now. Nigerians do not know who these people are. Nothing has been done against them. So is it okay or fair to say that the Nigerian government, according to General Sani Abacha, knows so much about the things happening? And if that is the case, to what gains is it really?
Well, I think that the way terrorist activities had evolutionized over the years, it has grown beyond late Sani Abacha's quote that government knows something about it. Because from what we have seen, so at times these bandits are even ahead of government in their planning, in their operations, and in their strategies. They are ahead of them. So I will not subscribe to that. I will not really subscribe to that. But what I believe is that I think that we must make up our minds on fighting war against terror, because that is exactly what it is. And if we make up our mind that we want to fight and win this war of terror, no effort should be spared. No effort should be spared in ensuring that whatever is required to defeat this enemy is made available to the security operatives. You remember that even Jonathan had to go out of the way to raise a 1 billion fund for military equipment, and it was that equipment that he bought that appears to have lasted throughout his remaining tenure and throughout even Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, because there was I don't think there was any report that Muhammadu Buhari bought some military equipment.
Well, except the Tucano jets, that he got.
Of course, except the Tucano jet. But when we talk about AK-47 and other long-range weapons, medium military equipment, it appears that $1 billion a lot provided quite, even though it was subjected to probe not long thereafter, but it's clear that it provided quite a lot of military equipment that aided the fight against what I will now describe as terror. And so extraordinary, and this is where we want to see political will. This is the kind of places where we want to see declaration of state of emergency. And that's why we are saying, people of my school of thought are saying that the declaration of state of emergency in Rivers State was misplaced. It was completely misplaced. You declare state of emergency in a place where there's no fighting, diverting attention. That the state of emergency ought to have been declared against bandits and banditry, and against killer herdsmen and Boko Haram, and provide sufficient military equipment, recruit. For now, we hear that even our military personnel are understaffed greatly. Yeah. We need to do major recruitment into our military formations to buffer this war against terror. So that's what we want to see. But unfortunately, during Buhari's term, why they are suggesting that we need to recruit between 150 and over 350,000 military personnel. And I really wonder whether during the 8 years of Buhari's administration, more than 10 to 20,000 military personnel were recruited, but I stand to be corrected. And I also really wonder whether in the last 2 years of the Tinubu's administration, up to 10 or 20,000 new military personnel has been recruited into the Nigerian military. So if you have all the equipment cannot operate themselves. You need men, human beings, to operate this equipment. So if you don't have the right number of staffs, the right numbers manning military equipment in the various formations, you find out that you will, as they say, you go nowhere. So we need to, I know that we have adopted security policies, security strategies, but our problem in Nigeria has always been implementation, including the Constitution. We don't implement Constitution, we don't implement our laws, we don't implement our reports, we don't implement our strategies. So and that's where political will, which I spoke of earlier, comes in. But if we are ready to say, okay, we are ready, starting from the president, there's a resolve that we are ready to give this war whatever it takes. Even making that proclamation and following up with practical steps alone, I can assure you that in the next 1 year, if the campaigns do not distract this priority, the next 1 year, the issue of banditry will be a thing of the past. So even though I disagree with Abacha, that not necessarily is because the government, key officials of government are complicit in banditry and the rest of them, but I disagree. But what I'm saying is that key officials of government must be willing and desirous and ready to give it all it takes, to provide all it takes, and to make available all it takes, and to take every extraordinary measure to defeat this gang of terror. So if they now stamp their feet on the ground and do that, I can assure you 1 year, 1.5 years from now, you will find out that these gangs, different gangs of terror, would have been greatly decimated. I have that complete conviction.
But Barrister, do you agree with or subscribe to state police as a solution? Because there's been this cry by governors that if they allow them operate their own police, that the community knows where some of these people are and might flush them out. So do you believe state police as an antidote to solving the menace of banditry, insurgency, terrorism in Nigeria?
The truth about the whole thing is that it is controversial, but like you said, what is really my own opinion about it? Because they have been talking about the abuse of state police, and the fact that when a child starts to walk, it will abuse, the child will abuse his rights, his ability and capacity to walk around, to go to places it ought not to
doesn't want to
go.
Yeah. So
does it now mean that we will now ensure that the child
never walks?
Does not grow enough to walk? Let's will not cripple the child, because we feel that if we allow the child to mature into being able to walk, where it's not supposed to go, the child may go to the toilet. The child may go if there's a well in the compound. The child may go to the well. If there's a stream, the child may go to the stream. The child may go to the swimming pool. The child may go into a gutter. So because of that one, we'll not cripple the child. So don't walk, so that we can only take you where we feel is good for you. So go. That is how those who are arguing against state police, that is how it sounds in my ear. State police is a inevitable necessity that must happen. And where we will see the demerits in it as we apply it. But if we are a country who is actually moving to higher heights, we will have to look for ways to deal with those problems being used by governor against political evidence, being used to abuse fundamental human rights, being used for oppressive function, being used for criminality, being used to commit murder, being used to do personal, carry out personal interest of governors or people in authority. And the question to ask is that this one single police that we have now, federal police, are they not doing all that? Are they not doing that? Are they not doing that? And of course, the answer is known to both you and I. So we must have state police. Not only state police, we must also have local government police, so that there are different levels of law enforcement. And we have to work on it, but I know it's not going to happen in a day, so that they can collaborate, because it's not sufficient enough to have different levels of law enforcement. But what is more important is that there must be synergy among these various levers of law enforcement. They must collaborate. I don't know whether you followed the report from 9/11 in America, United States. Yeah. One of the downfall of security agents, and that's why they now created the Office of the Home Security, yes. Home Affairs Security. Home Security Affairs, yeah. Home Security Affairs. Yes. Home Security Affairs, thereabout, is that these security agents, they did not, you have FBI, you have DEA, and you have the state police and the local government police. They did not collaborate effectively. They were acting on their own. They were acting on their own based on chain command. They were not sharing information as they ought to. So even after what will ensure that the state police, because in Nigeria we believe in duplication of function, 7 agencies doing the same thing under different names. So what will make the difference? Because the benefit of security is to ensure that lives and properties are well protected, is effective collaboration within these various security agencies at federal, state, and local government levels. And it means that there should be no discrimination. Their functions must be clearly spelled out. You must now streamline their functions in such a way that the duties of the federal police and their limits, their boundaries, will be stated. The duties of the state police, their boundaries, clear-cut boundaries, are also stated, as well as the local government police, so that if they do know, there will be no crisscrossing, one jump doing, and that, because that's what we see Nigeria doing. At times you hardly recognize, you see the difference between police and DSS. DSS now does police work. Police will be doing DSS work. Police is doing AFCC work. Police is doing immigration work. Police is even doing road safety work. Police. So we must properly streamline it, and we must also put in clear-cut regulation frameworks and supervision to ensure that they stay in their lane, they stay in their respective lane. and they collaborate, not only staying in their respective lane, but they collaborate. And so that in a situation where a federal police first apprehends a suspect or is the first that was called to action in a place, after carrying out some preliminary investigation, he can now hand over the matter or the suspects or his own reports, thus far investigation report, to the appropriate authority to continue. That's how it's done. You refer matters when you see that, oh, this one outside my boundary, you refer it and send it there. That's why it's done in America and other civilized parts of the world. So the state police is not only creating state police, there are other follow-up measures that must be stringently and religiously followed through. Or if it is not done, my guess is as good as your own guess, that the end result is that the essence of setting the state police will become completely futile. That's the truth. So I support state police, but I also support that every other necessary measure that will ensure it to work must also be followed through.
Thank you so very much, Barrister. We truly do appreciate you. What we need in Nigeria is peace, most importantly. That is what I think would attract foreign direct investments in any way. And